It started in the most ordinary way, like all disasters do. We met through friends at a birthday dinner. She walked in late, wearing a black dress that made everyone else in the room fade to grayscale. She wasn't loud, but she didn't have to be. The silence seemed to part for her. She laughed softly, leaned forward when she talked, and looked at you in a way that made you feel like the only person who existed. Her name was Lila. At least, that's what she said it was. Back then, I thought I was lucky. We spent hours talking about everything: art, music, how people change when they stop being loved. She had this way of speaking like she'd seen more than she should have, and I was drawn to that darkness. When she said she didn't believe in forever, I thought she was just being poetic. I didn't realize she was warning me. The first red flag came wrapped as a confession. "I don't like when people text me too much," she said one night, her tone playful but sharp. "It makes me feel owned." I told her I understood. I didn't. I thought giving her space would make her trust me. What it really did was teach her how easy I was to manipulate. Weeks passed, and she became everything I wanted and everything I feared. She'd vanish for days, no texts, no calls, then reappear at midnight with a half smile and a soft "missed you." When I asked where she'd been, she'd look offended, like I'd broken some invisible rule. "You're not my keeper," she'd whisper, and somehow I'd be the one apologizing. She made guilt feel like love. My friends warned me. They said she was playing games, that she liked control. But they didn't see her the way I did. The small tremor in her hands when she got angry, the quiet tears she wiped away before I could touch her. I kept telling myself she was just damaged, that she needed understanding, not confrontation. I told myself that every toxic thing she did was just trauma wearing a mask. One night she came over, drenched in perfume and late as usual. She said her phone died. Again. When I reached for it, joking, she froze. "Don't touch my things," she snapped. Her voice wasn't playful this time. It was cold, unfamiliar. That's when I saw it. The small reflection of a man's name lighting up her lock screen. Evan Redhart. My stomach twisted. But I didn't say anything. I smiled, pretending I hadn't seen it. She noticed, though. She always noticed. Later that night, when she fell asleep beside me, I lay there staring at the ceiling, pretending I was still the man she wanted. The next morning, she kissed me like nothing had happened. And for a while, I let her, because when you love someone like her, reality becomes optional. You stop asking questions, not because you don't want answers, but because you already know them. That was the beginning of the end. The moment I realized that the woman I loved didn't need to lie to me anymore, because I'd already started lying to myself. It's strange how easily love can turn into suspicion. One small moment, one word too calm, one smile that lingers a second too long. After that night, I started noticing things I had ignored before. The late replies, the new perfume she never wore around me, the way she turned her phone face down every time it buzzed. She used to text me goodnight every evening. Now, sometimes she just disappeared mid-conversation, reappearing the next day with "fell asleep" or "busy, sorry." It wasn't the words that broke me. It was how easily they came. Lila had a gift for making guilt look like concern. If I asked where she'd been, she'd sigh and say, "You really don't trust me, do you?" Her voice would tremble, not with anger, but with disappointment, and I'd feel like a monster. She never yelled, never swore, never slammed doors. Her punishments were quieter. Silence, distance, the kind of cold that makes you question your own worth. Then there were the inconsistencies, the small, delicate cracks she left without realizing. She told me she was at dinner with friends, but a photo posted by one of those friends showed her nowhere near that table. She said she was working late, but I saw a tag story of her in some dimly lit bar, a man's arm barely visible in the corner. When I asked about it, she laughed. "You're overthinking again," she said, touching my face. "You always do that when you get scared of losing me." And just like that, she flipped the script. I was no longer betrayed one. I was the insecure one, the clingy one, the man who couldn't handle an independent woman. She had this way of turning my fears into proof of her innocence. If I was quiet, I was passive-aggressive. If I spoke up, I was too emotional. There was no right move, only the move she allowed. One night, I got a call from a block number. A man's voice on the other end said, "You should know she's not who you think." Then silence. When I called back, the line was dead. I told her about it later, hoping she'd reassure me. Instead, she smiled, slow, deliberate, and said, "That's what happens when people get jealous of us." The way she said us made me believe her, even when everything inside me screamed not to. A few days later, I drove to her apartment unannounced. It wasn't planned. It was desperation. Her car was there. The lights were off. I rang the bell, and after a moment, she opened the door, barefoot, wearing one of my shirts. She smiled, but her eyes flickered with something sharp. Behind her, in the reflection of a mirror, I saw a shadow move. She noticed where I was looking and stepped forward quickly, blocking my view. "You shouldn't come over without calling," she said, her voice steady but low. "It makes me feel unsafe." Unsafe. That word hit me harder than any accusation. I apologized, of course I did, and left. I sat in my car outside for half an hour, watching her window. The light turned on, then off, then on again. A silhouette crossed the blinds. Two silhouettes. That's when the truth stopped being a suspicion and became a presence. Something sitting next to me in the car, whispering, "You already know." I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't, because in that moment, I realized I wasn't ready to lose her. Not yet. The human heart has a way of choosing pain when comfort feels like abandonment. So I drove home. I didn't call her for 3 days. She didn't call me either. But on the 4th morning, there was a message waiting for me. Just 3 words. "We need to talk." I didn't know it then, but that message was the start of everything that would destroy what was left of me. When I got that message, my chest tightened in a way I hadn't felt before, that heavy, airless tension between hope and dread. We need to talk. Those words can mean anything, but from her, they always meant war disguised as peace. I drove to her apartment, my palms sweating on the steering wheel. The city looked unreal that day, too still, too quiet. When she opened the door, she looked perfect like always. Perfect enough to make you forget everything you came to say. Her hair was tied back loosely, her eyes tired but deliberate, her voice calm. "I didn't think you'd come," she said. I wanted to ask why she hadn't called, who was in her apartment that night, what she was doing with a man's name on her phone. But all of that dissolved the moment she stepped closer. That was her power. She knew how to turn confrontation into confession, how to make you apologize for seeing the truth. She poured 2 glasses of wine, even though it was barely noon. "You've been distant," she said softly. "I feel like I don't even recognize you anymore." I almost laughed. Me? Distant? The irony was too much to bear. But she looked at me with that quiet sadness she wore like a weapon, and the guilt came flooding in. "I've just been thinking," I said. "About what?" "About us." She smiled faintly, but there was no warmth in it. "You're still hung up on that night, aren't you?" Her tone was calm, too calm, like someone talking about a movie they'd already seen. "There was no one there," she continued. "You saw shadows. You hear what you want to hear because you're scared of being left." I felt my throat tighten. "Then tell me who Evan is." She froze for a fraction of a second, small enough to almost miss, but long enough for the truth to flicker through her face. Then she laughed, shaking her head. "My God, you're unbelievable." Her laughter didn't sound cruel. It sounded tired, pitying, as if I were a child who dropped something fragile. She sat on the couch and gestured for me to sit beside her. I didn't move. "Evan is my co-worker," she said. "You've seen him comment on my post before. He's married, for God's sake." "Then why the heart next to his name?" I asked. She shrugged. "Because I like hearts. Because it's cute. Because it's my phone, and I can do whatever I want with it. Do you want to delete every contact just so you can breathe easier?" Her voice was sharper now, breaking through that calm facade. I could see the switch flipping. The anger wasn't because I accused her, but because I caught her off script. I didn't say that. I murmured. "No," she replied, standing now. "But you meant it." She walked to the window, staring out like she was waiting for applause. "Do you know what it's like She whispered. To have someone love you so much that they stop trusting you? To have to prove yourself every single day to someone who can't see past their own insecurity? She turned back to me then, eyes glistening, voice trembling just enough to seem real. You're suffocating me and I can't breathe anymore. I wanted to shout, to tell her she was the one suffocating me, that I'd spent months second-guessing my own sanity because of her half-truths and sudden mood swings. But all I could say was, I'm sorry. She nodded, satisfied, the small, victorious smile of someone who's just rewritten history in front of you. Then she sat down, placed her hand over mine, and whispered, I just need time. Space. I still love you, but not like this. The words still hit harder than I expected. It wasn't reassurance. It was a farewell disguised as mercy. That night, I went home and sat in the dark for hours, staring at my phone. Her profile picture changed around midnight. A photo of her on the beach, wind in her hair, holding someone's hand cropped just enough to hide his face. It was the same beach she once promised we'd visit together. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt something worse, resignation. That quiet acceptance that you've lost not just someone, but the version of yourself that believed you mattered to them. I didn't text her again that night, but the next morning I saw her online, posting a story. A quote. It said, some people love control more than they love peace. No caption, no tag, just that. And somehow I knew it was for me. It's strange how silence can make your mind scream louder than words ever could. After that conversation, I told myself I'd back off, that I'd give her the space she said she needed. But space doesn't heal lies. It just gives them room to grow. Days turned into weeks. The more I tried to forget, the more I replayed everything. Her tone, her pauses, that tiny flicker of panic when I said his name. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I went to the bar near her office, the one she used to mention casually in conversation. I told myself I was just going to get a drink, nothing more. But deep down, I knew what I was really doing there. I wanted to see it with my own eyes, the thing my heart already knew, but my mind refused to admit. The bar was crowded, warm, filled with a hum of laughter and low music. I took a seat near the back, ordered a beer, and tried to blend in. My chest felt tight. Every time the door opened, my pulse jumped. And then there she was, Lila, in that same black coat she wore the night we met, her hair tied back, a soft smile on her lips. She wasn't alone. The man walking beside her was taller, older maybe, wearing the same office badge around his neck that she used to wear. His hand brushed her lower back as they entered, and she didn't flinch. She leaned into it. It wasn't an accident. It was familiarity. They sat 2 tables away. She ordered her favorite, white wine, no ice. He made her laugh. That laugh I once thought belonged only to me. The sound hit me like a knife. I stared long enough for her to feel it. Maybe because at one point her gaze drifted across the room, and she saw me. For a second, her expression broke. Not guilt, not surprise, just annoyance. Like I was an inconvenience that had shown up uninvited in the world she built without me. She stood up, whispered something to him, and walked over. Her heels clicked like gunshots on the floor. "What are you doing here?" she asked quietly. I tried to find words. I just came for a drink. Here? The one place I told you I go after work. Her voice was sharp now, her smile gone. Are you following me? The accusation came out fast, practiced, like she'd been waiting to use it. No, I said, shaking my head. You just what? She interrupted. You just happen to come to the same bar? You just happen to stare at me all night like some kind of stalker? People around us were starting to glance over. My heart pounded. She leaned in closer, her voice a whisper, but her words venom. If you ever do this again, I'll call the police. Then she walked back to her table. To him. She didn't even look back. I sat there, frozen, humiliated. The man looked over once, curious, and she said something that made him laugh again. Maybe she told him I was crazy. Maybe she said I was some jealous ex who couldn't move on. Maybe she told him nothing at all. I left without finishing my drink. That night, I couldn't sleep. Her words kept echoing, stalker, police, crazy. The kind of words that stick, the kind that can destroy a reputation faster than truth can fix it. 2 days later, I got a call from a mutual friend. He sounded hesitant. "Hey, man, look, I don't want to get involved, but Lila's been saying some things. That you've been showing up at her job, watching her, calling nonstop." My blood ran cold. "That's not true." "I figured," he said quietly, "but she's convincing. You might want to clear your name before it gets worse." Worse. The word hung in the air like a warning. I tried to call her, but she didn't answer. Then I texted, "Why are you doing this?" She replied 2 hours later, "You brought this on yourself." That was all she said. That's when I realized it. This wasn't just manipulation anymore. This was war. She wasn't trying to push me away. She was trying to destroy me, piece by piece. And the worst part, I still loved her. I still wanted to believe that somewhere beneath all that venom, there was a woman who once looked at me like I was her home. But the truth is, she was never looking for home. She was building a cage, and I was stupid enough to hand her the key. After that night, I started losing control of my own story. It was like she had taken my life and edited it, piece by piece, moment by moment, until everyone else saw only the version she wanted them to see. I didn't realize how powerful words could be until hers began turning people against me. It started small. A mutual friend stopped answering my messages. Another one told me he was too busy to meet up. Then I overheard someone at work say, "He's been acting weird lately, right?" Like obsessive. That word cut deeper than any insult ever could. Obsessive. It was hers. The same word she used when she told me I was too attached, too paranoid, too controlling. She had planted it like a seed, and now it was growing everywhere. I tried to defend myself at first. I explained things to anyone who would listen. But the more I talked, the crazier I sounded. That's the genius of people like her. They make sure that by the time you start defending yourself, the story's already been written. Every word you say only proves their point. I stopped answering calls. I deleted my social media. I thought silence would protect me, but silence only made her voice louder. One morning, I woke up to an email from my manager. He said there had been concerns raised about my behavior, that someone had claimed I was showing up uninvited at her workplace, that she felt unsafe. Unsafe. That word again. I felt sick. I hadn't seen her in weeks. I hadn't even texted her. Still, I was called into HR for a conversation. They didn't accuse me of anything directly. They didn't need to. I could see it in their faces. The way they leaned back slightly in their chairs, the way their eyes flickered between pity and suspicion. When I left the office that day, I realized something terrifying. She hadn't just broken my heart. She was dismantling my life. I tried one last time to talk to her. I called from a friend's phone, knowing she wouldn't pick up if it was mine. She answered after the second ring. Her voice was calm, sweet even. "Why can't you just let this go?" she asked. "Because you're lying about me," I said quietly. "You know it's not true." She laughed softly. "You think people will believe you over me? Look at how you sound right now. Listen to yourself. You sound unstable." "I'm not," I said, my voice cracking. "You're destroying me." "I told you," she said, her tone turning cold. "I just want peace. You keep bringing this on yourself." Then she hung up. For a long time, I just stared at the phone, hearing the click of the call ending like a door slamming shut on everything I once was. That night, I sat in my apartment, surrounded by the ghosts of my own sanity. Every sound outside felt like her. Every silence felt like punishment. I opened old messages, old photos. Every smile, every word that once felt like love now looked like evidence of something I couldn't even name. And then came the message that finally broke me. It was from an unknown number. A photo. Her with him, in the same bar where I'd seen them weeks ago. Her arms around his neck, her smile radiant, his hand on her thigh. The caption read, "You always thought you were special." I don't remember how long I sat staring at that image. It wasn't jealousy anymore. It wasn't even heartbreak. It was a realization that I had been rewritten, that the version of me that existed in her world was a monster, and no amount of truth could erase it. The next day, my manager called me again. They said they had to let me go for the sake of professional safety. That phrase haunted me. Professional safety. As if I were a threat. As if loving her had turned me into something dangerous. Maybe it had. I went home, packed a box, and left the city that night. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I just drove until the skyline disappeared behind me, and the road ahead became nothing but empty black. Somewhere along the highway, I realized I wasn't running from her anymore. I was running from a man I'd become trying to keep her love. But even as the miles passed, her voice stayed with me. Soft, cruel, unforgettable. You sound unstable. And maybe she was right, because loving someone like her changes you. It poisons your faith, twists your memory, burns your reflection until you can't tell who's lying anymore. By the time I reached the next city, I wasn't sure who I was. All I knew was that I had to start over, if that was even possible. But deep down, I knew the story wasn't over. Not yet, because women like her don't just disappear. They follow you in whispers and rumors, in the way people look at you like they've already heard your name before. And one day, I knew she'd find a new version of me to destroy. Months passed before I saw her again. I had moved to another city, started a small job, rented a quiet apartment where no one knew my name. I was trying to build something that resembled peace, even if it was fragile and temporary. For a while it worked, until one night I was scrolling through social media and saw her face again. She looked exactly the same, maybe even happier. Her smile hadn't aged a day. Her eyes still had that same deceptive warmth. But this time, there was someone else beside her, a man I didn't recognize. His hand rested on her waist. The caption read, "Finally found peace." I stared at that photo for a long time. It wasn't jealousy anymore. It was déjà vu, the beginning of another cycle. I could already see it. The way she leaned into him, the way she mirrored his movements, studied him like prey. I remembered that look. I remembered being that man. A part of me wanted to look away. But another part, the broken, unfinished part, couldn't. Over the next few weeks, I found myself checking her profile more often than I should have. Every post, every caption felt like a message written in a language I once spoke fluently. When you meet the right one, the past doesn't matter anymore. Some people don't know how to love without control. The words burned, not because they were lies, but because I knew exactly who they were meant for. And then, one evening, I saw something that made my stomach drop. A photo of her and the new guy. His name was Daniel, sitting in the same bar where I had last seen her. Same corner, same table, even the same drink in her hand. History wasn't repeating itself. It was copying itself line by line. 2 days later, I got a message from an unknown account. The message said, "I think we should talk. You don't know me, but I think we're connected." There was no profile picture, no name, but I knew immediately who it was. Daniel. We met in a cafe near the river. He looked exhausted, not physically, but mentally, the kind of tired that seeps into your bones. He told me how they met at work, how she'd swept into his life like a storm, how everything felt perfect until it didn't. He said she started accusing him of things that never happened, twisting words, isolating him from his friends, making him question his own memory. As he spoke, I felt a strange mix of pity and recognition. It was like listening to my own story told by someone else. When I tried to warn him, to explain who she really was, he shook his head. "No," he said, "you don't understand. She told me about you. She said you were obsessed, that you couldn't let her go, that you made her feel unsafe." The words hit me like a bullet. Unsafe. That same word again, passed down like a curse. She said you followed her, harassed her, tried to ruin her life. He continued. She said you're dangerous. I wanted to scream, to tell him it was all lies, but the look in his eyes told me it wouldn't matter. She'd already planted the story. I could see the doubt behind his sympathy, the quiet caution of a man who wanted to believe me but couldn't, because she was already in his head. When I left the cafe, I felt the same numbness I'd felt the night she turned on me. I walked along the river, watching the lights ripple on the water, realizing that there was nothing I could do to stop what was coming. She didn't just ruin people, she rewrote them. She turned men into ghosts long before they realized they were dead. A week later, Daniel blocked me. His account disappeared. And a few days after that, she posted another photo. Her hand in his, the caption, "When love heals what others try to destroy." I should have ignored it, but I didn't, because deep down I knew it wouldn't last. She'd do to him what she did to me. And someday, he'd be sitting where I was now. Try to warn the next one, realizing too late that some people don't want love. They want power. Still, that night, I wrote something I never sent. "One day, Daniel, you'll understand what kind of woman she is. I just hope you survive it." And when I turned off my phone, I sat there in the dark, wondering how many other men before me had done the same. How many had tried to escape her only to find themselves trapped in the memory of her smile, that perfect, poisonous smile that could ruin a life without ever breaking a single rule. It happened by accident, or maybe it didn't. Maybe life just has a cruel sense of humor. It had been nearly a year since that cafe meeting with Daniel, since I promised myself I was done with her, that I'd stop chasing ghosts. I had changed cities again, started rebuilding what was left of my life. The air felt lighter, cleaner. I had almost convinced myself she was just a story I once lived through, one of those experiences you bury so deep it starts to feel like fiction. And then, one cold evening in November, I saw her. I was walking out of a bookstore downtown when I heard that laugh, that same soft, intoxicating laugh that used to make everything else go quiet. My body froze before my mind even caught up. I turned, and there she was, standing by the streetlight, her hair longer now, her coat the same shade of red she used to wear when she wanted attention, and beside her another man. Not Daniel. Someone new. She hadn't seen me yet. She was looking up at him, smiling, her hand resting lightly on his arm. The same moves, the same rhythm. I knew it all by heart. I should have walked away. Every rational part of me screamed leave, but something deeper, something wounded, told me to stay, just for a moment. I watched them cross the street, watched the way she tilted her head when she talked, how she leaned in when she wanted to make someone feel seen. She was repeating the same choreography, word for word, gesture for gesture, like a magician performing the same trick for a new audience. I wondered if she even remembered me, or if I was just another shadow in the line of men she'd left behind. She glanced across the street, and for a split second, just one, our eyes met. Time didn't slow down. It stopped. The noise of the city faded. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes, they flickered. Recognition, surprise, and something else, that small controlled panic she used to hide behind her calm smile. She didn't wave. She didn't say a word. She just turned back to him, slipped her hand into his, and walked away. That should have been the end of it. But as I stood there watching her fade into the crowd, I realized something. She would never stop. Not with me, not with Daniel, not with anyone. People like her don't seek love. They seek reflection. They look for someone to mirror their emptiness back at them, to feed their need for control, to keep their own chaos from swallowing them whole. I walked for hours that night, trying to feel something other than the numb, hollow ache she always left behind. Every streetlight, every reflection in the window seemed to carry her silhouette, but for the first time, I didn't want her back. I didn't want closure. I just wanted freedom, not from her, but from the version of myself that kept bleeding for her. When I finally got home, I sat by the window and wrote in my notebook, something I hadn't done in months. She doesn't haunt me anymore. Not because she's gone, but because I finally see her for what she is, a wound that learned how to walk. I closed the notebook and stared at the skyline. The night was silent, except for the faint hum of the city below. The same city where she was probably laughing with someone else, telling him she just needs space, that she's not like other women, that she's been hurt before. And maybe he'd believe her, like I once did. Maybe he'd think he could fix her. Maybe in a few months, he'd start to see the cracks too, the manipulation, the lies, the emotional chess games. And when he did, he'd realize what I already knew, that loving her was like drowning, and mistaking the water for her embrace. I don't know where she is now. I don't check anymore. But sometimes when the night gets too quiet, I think about all the versions of me she left scattered in her wake. And I wonder if somewhere she ever remembers them too. Probably not. Because to her, love was never about remembering. It was about erasing until the only story left was hers. And that's how I finally let her go. Not with a goodbye, not with forgiveness, but with silence, the one thing she could never control.